WXME-AM 780, Monticello, Holton, Presque Isle.
Good morning, Aroostook County. This is the Aroostook Watchman radio show. This is Jack McCarthy, your host for today, and my guest co-host is Hal Shurtleff from the JBS Society. Good morning, Hal.
Good morning, Jack. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
I like the guest co-host, not more than just a guest, but a co-host. I like that.
Yeah, I like it too. It works. We can do the guest stuff, but we can also do the interaction with all kinds of other interesting subjects that we want to get onto. So it's a neat way to do it, and I appreciate you being on with me. And you in the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts this morning?
Yes, I'm in the Boston, otherwise known as the People's Republic of Sodom. Unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately.
It's a terrible thing to say, but in order to get anywhere in Boston politics, you must fly a rainbow flag and march in the homosexual so-called gay pride parade in June when they celebrate that's sort of their July 4th, their Independence Day, when they celebrating the anniversary of the mafia homosexual barroom when the police raided it and they kind of fought back and hurt a few policemen. That's their and police will mark in this thing too, as somehow this is a positive thing. But
how revolting!
I'm heading up to God's country tomorrow, and I'll be up in the Aroostook area Thursday to Sunday. And as you've already mentioned, I'll be giving a presentation at the Governor's Restaurant in Presque Isle on the subject of the United Nations and its drive to disarm the American people.
That's coming. Well,
we're
going to disarm the people and militarize all the police departments.
Well, that will be at 9 o'clock this coming Saturday, and it will be in the meeting room. And it's going to be, there won't be any admission charge. If you want to show up a little early and order off the menu, that's fine. Grab a cup of coffee. It really doesn't matter. And the presentation will be about 50 minutes, and there'll be time I'll have plenty of material, literature, magazines, DVDs, and so forth to help you take it out. And what's interesting is that there are some people just discovering that the UN is somehow interested in gun control. I remember visiting with my son probably about, it may have been 10 years ago now. We visited the headquarters of the NRA, and they have a beautiful museum. I mean, it's just a wonderful place. If you don't have to be into guns to appreciate it. And they have a gift shop and a bookstore, and they have all kinds of books on every gun-related topic you could imagine. Ted Nugent's book was there, and what have you, but not one single book about the biggest threat to gun owners, the United Nations. Now, they've changed a little bit. They were an NGO, it means non-government organization, recognized by the UN. And they did this, I think, in the late 90s. And the argument that their leaderships said, so we have to know what they're up to. Well, you really don't have to sit around them and say, hey, look, I'm part of this, to know what they're up to. We know what they're up to. It's pretty easy. So I think they might have changed a little bit on their position, and I think they've actually come out against these arms controls treaties. But it's important to point out that the United Nations is not a country. It is a collection of mainly socialist misfits that are appointed by their dictators and by their governments. We don't even elect our delegates. And, of course, they almost always vote against the interest of the Constitution anyway. So the whole notion that you sign a treaty with something called the United Nations is ridiculous. Unfortunately, there are those people, we know there's very few people not enough people understand the Constitution. They'll say somehow a treaty supersedes the Constitution. They look at the Supremacy Clause. And can you imagine that with our founders that gave us this great document, they spent how many months in the hot days arguing and debating, and they finally came up with something. And oh, by the way, all the last 6 months of efforts and all the efforts we're going to have can be completely abrogated by foreign powers, the president, and 3/4 or 2/3 of the Senate. How ridiculous and absurd can that be?
How ridiculous. That's right.
But,
hey,
I'm sorry.
Let's take a quick pause and finish our housekeeping for this morning. We just dove into the major subjects here that quick. We're coming to you live from 780 AM in Monticello, Maine. And throughout the state, we have our little transmitters in Bangor and Brewer at 96.5, and Westbrook and the Back Bay of Portland, 88.1, and the Great Lewiston area at 1700 AM. We need to jump in and do our scripture. We always start with scripture. We try to anyway. And my wife pointed this one out to me yesterday as we were doing some studying, and we're going to read the 12th Psalm. This is pretty interesting because it goes right along with exactly what we were just talking about, how this is to the chief musician, to the Psalm of David. Help, Lord, for principled and godly people are here no more. Faithfulness and the faithful vanish from among the sons of men. This is talking about the faithful. This is not talking about the sinners. To his neighbor, each one speaks words without use or worth or truth, with flattering lips and double heart. Deceitfully they speak. May the Lord cut off all flattering lips and the tongues that speak proud boasting. Those who say, with our tongues we prevail, our lips are our own, to command at our will. Who is Lord and Master over us? Now I will arise, says the Lord, because the poor are oppressed, because of the groans of the needy. I will set him in safety and in the salvation for which he pants. The words and promises of the Lord are pure words, like silver refined in an earthen furnace, purified 7 times over. You will keep them and preserve them, O Lord. You will guard and keep us from this evil generation forever. The wicked walk or prowl about on every side, as vileness is exalted and baseness is rated high among the sons of men. That's quite the indictment. That's the 12th Psalm, and the first 4 or 5 verses of that are not aimed at the perverts. This is telling us who the good people have become, and that the godly are here no more, and the faithfulness and the faithful vanish from among the sons of men. That's why we are in trouble. We need some pastors to stand up and wake up, and we need the word of God to be spoken in the church again, instead of the soft and squishy feel-good stuff. Because I have... Go ahead, Al.
Oh, I was just saying that King Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. And when people talk about the Bible, what you just read can be said, that could have been today's headline.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
Human nature doesn't change. We may have technology. We may be able to go to the moon and fly a plane across the world, but human nature does not change, and that's why our founders, most of whom had a Calvinist perspective, realized that man was innately depraved, and without God in his life, we're in trouble. So that's why our Constitution is as valid today as it was, and it will be valid 1,000 years from now, because it doesn't so much deal with technology. It has a patent office, but it deals with man's nature.
Well, part of the issue is the Constitution. The founders knew that man is, as you said, basically depraved. And so the Constitution was put there as a limit on the government, so that the government could not be infiltrated and used against the people. And look what has become. I've got a we've been talking about drones and whatnot, and just an example of who's running what. I got a notice this morning of a coming event. And I want to read you this, and folks, I just want you to pay attention here. This is why we're in trouble. This is a good idea, and I'm all for it, except there's one line in it that makes me just a little crazy. Maine Drone Peace Walk, October 10th to the 19th. Preserve our privacy. No drone spying in Maine. President Obama has announced that 30,000 drones will soon be flying around the U.S. doing surveillance on the American people. 37 states have applied to be one of the 6 drone test centers across the nation. Listen, more than 500 drone manufacturing corporations are now bidding to be recipients of Pentagon funds for drones. Just as we walk across Maine from October 10th to the 19th to call attention to this deadly and unconstitutional drone program, we must push back against the expanding use of surveillance drones in the U.S. and weaponized drones around the world that are killing many innocent people. There is much talk about bringing drones to Maine and making the Presque Isle Airport a weaponized drone test center. Thus, our reason for starting the walk in Aroostook County. Our nonviolent peace walk will be led by all the pastors in Aroostook County. No, it doesn't say that. It says our nonviolent peace walk will be led by Buddhist nun Yan San Yasuda. How come? Why, people? Why? This is what drives me absolutely over the edge. One nation under drones with surveillance and airstrikes for all, opposed by all the good pastors, the Black Robe Regiment. No, a single Buddhist nun.
That
There's something really wrong with that.
Right? That speaks volumes about...
That makes me cringe. That brings me back to Psalm 12. To his neighbor, each one speaks words without use or worth or truth. Flattering lips and deceitfully they speak.
Jack, are there any of the Black Robe Regiment type pastors or potential in your county? There's got to be a couple of them. I know there's some nice churches up there. It seems to be Bible believing.
They are. There's some good people. They just don't seem to be able to look outside of their little box.
Yes, that's one of the problems. Everything is maybe some of the theology. Oh, it's all going to happen anyway. We can't do anything about it. I've heard that since I was a young teenager with the late, great Planet Earth, 74, 75, and a lot of people just don't want to get involved.
Well, I asked one of the pastors, there was a guest speaker who has been ministering and doing missions for the last 30 years into all the Muslim countries. And at the end, I asked, so how many Christians and Jews are you willing to kill in Iran in order to justify your war? How many Christians are you willing to kill in Iran? And boy, they couldn't give me an answer to that.
Yeah,
how many Christians are collateral damage are okay?
What's interesting, right next door to me is a Syrian church, and I had a chat with the father, and I've asked him what's the situation in Syria. So we got in the subject of the Middle East in general. And he said he's got some Iranians in his church, and he said that Iraqians, and he said that under Saddam Hussein, as bad as the guy was, the Christians were totally unmolested. And now, after all of this American blood was shed, billions of dollars, now you have a very hardcore Sharia law regime that has no toleration for Christians, and in Afghanistan it's the same way. So all the American blood, it was supposed to be, we've went over there to fight for our way of life. Isn't that what we were told? And defending our freedoms here. And I wish that were true. I was very proud to serve in the U.S. military. It had absolutely nothing to do with that.
We're spreading democracy, Hal. Oh, but how? We're spreading democracy around the world. How's that working for you?
If you said to me you were spreading a virus, if a democracy was such a good thing, and of course the word democracy is such a misunderstood term. If people read the founding documents of our nation, the Federalist Papers, you'd read that our founders wanted nothing to do with democracy. And what I mean by this is that they wanted a republic, ruled by law. And there were some democratic elections, but even with that, there are qualifications. Not everybody could just, vote. You had to have certain qualifications, as we still do today. And these people that cry democracy, how come you don't have democracy at the UN? How come you don't have? How come not one of them is elected democratically? How come the people can't recall their delegate? Let's say one of the delegates gets into some, does something wrong or votes the wrong way, which in our case is almost always. How do we recall them? Well, we don't. It can't be. And most people don't even know what they're doing at the UN. So again, let me give a little plug back again to my event there Saturday at 9:00 in the AM at the Governor's Restaurant, 325 Main Street. I'll be giving a presentation, free admission. And I don't know how many folks you say you got signals down in the southern part of the state. I'll be doing a Constitution study tomorrow night in Thomaston, Maine, 33 Booker Street, which is right off of Route 1, and in the office of Dr. Edward Harshman. So if you want to attend that, you're welcome to attend that as well. I'll be reviewing. The John Birch Society has this great 7-part Constitution study course. I'm going to be reviewing some of it, not the whole thing, of course. And that's tomorrow night.
That's a good time to plug Dr. Harshman. He is a medical doctor. He and his wife are patriots, active patriots.
Yes.
Dr. Harshman will see you, treat you from a holistic standpoint, and does not participate in the insurance scam. And so you can pay him in silver or phony Federal Reserve notes or chickens.
You can give them some chickens. They like ham. You give them some hams or a side of beef, they'll be happy. or some raw milk. Yeah. Dr. Harshman is a great guy. His wife Sheila. Sheila's the chap leader, and they're great people. I mean, we wish there was more like that. More like that, boy, would be in much better shape. But you want to if you're looking for, even if it's a little bit of a ride, it's certainly worth it to visit with Dr. Harshman. So
it's not
tomorrow
night.
Not
too far from the folks in Bangor and Brewer.
That's true. That's right. Yeah, that's just not too bad. About an hour and a half.
We've got our transmitters in Bangor and Brewer. One is right on the river in Brewer, so it comes across the river and hits most of downtown Bangor, and the other one is up on Hammond Street, so it's in that large residential area.
Okay, great.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And so that's the other thing, folks. If you want to participate in that, it's every time we get $305, we buy another one of those transmitters and plunk it down someplace. We would like to get another transmitter up in the St. John Valley at my father's place up right there in St. Agat. That'd be a great place for it. And by the way, tonight I am not going to be there. Oh no, tomorrow night, Wednesday night. What's today? Today's Tuesday. Yeah, Wednesday night. There's what's left of the Republican Party is going to be meeting in St. Agat to try to figure out what they're going to do about getting some people elected. Did you see the article that I sent you yesterday, the email?
It was sort of, yes, about the various delegates that have resigned from the party.
Yeah, interesting.
Across the state, yes. Yeah, it is very interesting.
The grand old party is crumbling from the perversion. It should be the grand old perverts.
Well, Massachusetts, I would say we're further down the road. The Massachusetts Republican Party has been in the hands of the limousine liberals or the Rockefeller Republicans for quite some time. There was a short time there might have been an opportunity. We had a fellow by the name of Raymond Shamey back in the 80s that could have taken the party away, but he wimped out when he was asked about his JBS membership, and he lied about it, and it was a shame because he was, for the most part, a decent, well-meaning guy, and but the power of the, I guess the word neocon wasn't used back then. But you know what it is? The neocons, you're not going to see them out there holding up signs. They might donate money, but their heart and soul, they're not the heart and soul of anything. But they're the ones that seem to have the influence and how they, and here is the Ron Paul types, the young, under 30 years of age. This would be the future of the party. People that are passionate about it. Maybe a little, rough, diamond in the rough, so to speak, and they want nothing to do with these, absolutely nothing to do with them. And you see at the national, people like John McCain. Why this man, John McCain? I don't know why the people of Arizona that tend to be more constitutionally minded, and they're feeling the brunt of the illegal immigration more than probably anybody else. Why they return this man to office every 6 years is beyond me.
That's staggering.
There he is.
I cannot comprehend how that happens over and over and over. That's got to tell you that it's rigged.
And Lindsey Graham, another one in South Carolina. How is a person like that returned to every 6 years? It's just missing. Yeah.
A year ago, something happened. Talking to my daughter here for a second. Don't go in there, honey. A year ago, there was a bill passed. Let's see if I can get it. It's H.R. 347. You remember that?
Not offhand.
Well, it's the one that basically made it illegal to protest by anywhere near a Secret Service agent.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, fast forward. Go back to last year, a little over a year ago. This was March of 2012. I have great news. The Republicans and Democrats in Congress and the White House finally came together and agreed on something. This is huge. These guys disagree on everything. Getting them to see eye to eye is like getting the Jews and the Palestinians to do a trust fall together, or getting Eskimos and polar bears to play Jenga. I'm referring to the bill H.R. 347 that was signed by Obama the other day, passed unanimously in the Senate, and 388 to 3 in the House. That's nearly every single lawmaker. Last time they agreed on closing all of something, it was a bill raising monthly congressional pay. But that just means that any time, if you wanted to protest outside the Republican National Convention, all they have to do is put a Secret Service person there, and that makes illegal for you to talk.
Well, when they had the convention, the Democrat convention was in Boston back, I don't know, I can't remember, when John Kerry was nominated, I think. And they had these so-called free speech zones. Isn't that, you talk about Orwellian, and people were using that term like somehow, like a free enterprise zone. The only place you have free speech is here. The only place you have free enterprise would be over here in this little corner here, too. See?
I love Michael Bednarik's. Every time he says that, I just jump up and down. Wherever I'm standing is a free speech zone.
That's right.
And I take it one step further. Wherever I'm standing is a free enterprise zone. So you want to trade, you want to do business, you and I, as natural human beings, have an unlimited right to contract. You may not interfere in me selling you or me buying from you raw milk or anything else for that matter. I have an unlimited right to contract. Get out of my face, get out of my space, get off of my property.
And if anything happens, then you have the right to bring that person you contract with to court. That's one of the most important parts of a free country, is that the right to contract and a legal system that will uphold that contract. That's what Von Mises said. When you have, have a true free market. But
if you try to do that, you find that there is no court for you to go into, because the court has been eliminated. The court that you're talking about is the common law court, and it has no one on the bench. We have found just recently in Maine there are 4 common law courtrooms in the state that are lawful common law courtrooms, but they are vacant. There is not a judge on the bench.
And I think that was one of your shows you had on a couple of weeks ago. You were discussing that.
Yeah, that's getting interesting.
Last week, yeah. I wanted to bring something up that was, I've been on the show before. We talked about the Constitutional Convention calls for a con, and I know a couple of times we had little meetings at the Capitol where we distributed information. I know some of the folks from way up north came down. But I was somebody had sent me a link to Sean Hannity's, one of his special show on the subject, and I thought, and this was very recent, just a few days ago when this happened. He had Mark Levin, and I don't want to, it's spelled Levin, the great one. He kept on referring to him as the great one. I guess that a talk show host should become a great one. It's so fascinating how these neocons puff each other up, somebody's an expert because this other person said so. Anyway, he's got a new book out, How We're Going to Save the Country, How We're Going to Save Our Republic. All of a sudden, a neocon is worried about saving the Republic. So, and it's through adding 15 amendments to the Constitution. And the only way to do that, of course, is through the Article 5. And then they had some panelists, I guess. And a few of them I didn't particularly. I would say most of them were probably half decent types. Maybe hearing about this Article 5 for the first time, and wow, they're all on board. And it was a masterful manipulation of psychology. Nobody on the panel, and there were about 15 people there. There was Michelle Malkin, who was one I recognized. There was somebody from Breitbart and some others.
Well, Michelle supposedly is a thinker. Michelle can think, and she is well-spoken, but she's on the wrong side of it.
Well, nobody asked any questions about how is this going to happen. He just mentioned, it can't be a runaway. And if it were, 3/4 of the states can put in check. But the bottom line is that none of these panelists, I read your book, it was great. No one had said, wait a minute now, who's going to choose the delegates? How do you know it won't be a runaway? What's the precedent? Why does Harvard law professor leftist Larry Lessig, and why does Common Cause, I got confused, Common Cause, a left-wing Rockefeller started up entity, why are they pushing it? Why do they think their results could come out of this Constitutional Convention or this Article 5 Convention? Not one question. There was a couple of people who says, well, I don't know if I like this amendment, and I don't know if I like that amendment, but you're wonderful, and you're smart, and you're great, we all love you, and this is a good thing to do. And so I thought, the Goldwater Institute tried to push it last year. They had this elaborate scheme where governors and delegates would meet in Dallas on July 4th. Of this past July, but even in Arizona, the people in Arizona, the legislature in Arizona shut it down. So even on their home court. So then they try this, and they get all these, and Rush Limbaugh is also pushing it. So, and I'm sure this guy's selling tons of books at $30 a pop too. That's probably one of the great.
Not a bad deal, huh?
No, not a bad. But you see, not one person on that panel. You think they would have found one person? They could have called me at Harvard. At Harvard 2 years ago, they had a symposium on the con, right? They had a National Tea Party Patriot Group, which is the Beltway Tea, not the real Tea Party. And they had Larry Lessig, Professor Lessig, and they had some other leftists. And I tried to get, they were it was supposed to be a forum. There was everyone needs to come here and discuss this. And so they didn't even return my calls. We were able to get media credentialed, but that means we couldn't participate. And I was there for one day. My colleague was there on a Saturday, and there was one person, Professor Lawrence Tribe, who was an outspoken, a liberal, but outspoken against it. He was the only one, and because of his credential, he was able to speak. But no one else, and they had their workshops. The workshops said how to get legislators to pass this. So if the far left Harvard Law School that since the 1880s has pushed what they call legal evolution, right? Everything evolves. Monkeys become human beings. The Constitution becomes something different. Everything evolves. Nothing has the same meaning, and that's what we all got to jump on.
Yeah, well, let me use my example for evolution. That loaf of bread that's sitting on the table does not grow into a cake. It turns into mold.
It will decay. And mold might be good for penicillin, though, but for the most part, you wouldn't want to eat it, right?
Yeah, well, it doesn't develop into a birthday cake.
So the bottom line is there is no quick fix. You already have a whole batch of amendments. Most of them are being ignored, and the body of the Constitution is being ignored, and it's all a question of character. You know, we had
I want to go back to the 14th Amendment and just erase them all from the 14th, including the 14th, all the way up. Erase them all and start over.
Well, that might be something. They talk about term limits as one of the amendments. Well, we've had term limits for president, right? Has that got us a constitutionalist?
No, not hardly.
So you replaced Bush with an Obama. You replaced the Clinton with another Bush, or a Bush with a Clinton, and somehow ever since we've had term limits, and term limits. First off, it should be called voter restrictions.
Well, the only limits I want on voters is I want people to only be able to vote who are not receiving any government subsidy. You cannot vote if you have the ability to vote for someone who's going to increase or decrease your benefit. So how can anyone that receives any benefit, whether you're a welfare recipient or a farmer that receives welfare from the government, no one that receives a benefit from the government is allowed to vote.
Because they already have, That would be something that would be an interesting provision, and it's not only the farmer but also the corporate socialists too.
Of course, anybody that receives a bailout, anybody that receives a subsidy, anybody that receives a tax deferment, if you are getting a benefit from the government that can be increased or decreased by the person for whom you're voting, then you can't vote.
There's a great little article, essay, that's sort of a free market classic. It's called Not Yours to Give. Yes, the Davy Crockett story. And I've been told there might be some license there. But nevertheless, it's a great lesson where Davy Crockett he was on the re-election trail, and he met this farmer, Horatio Bunce. He didn't know this farmer. And Mr. Bunce, who was just a hardworking, well-respected member of his county, said, I take the papers from Washington, D.C., and while you mean well, you don't know the Constitution, and I can't support you. And Crockett said, what do you mean? He said, well, there was a fire in Georgetown section of D.C., and you appropriated funds to cover the victims. And he said, well, what's wrong with that? He said, the money in the Treasury is for a specific purpose. It's not yours to give to anybody. If you can give it to the victims of the fire, you can give it to anybody. And he realized, you're right. And that's where you have private charity and the churches and all these other entities coming in. So
who are not doing their job because they've bought into the lie.
That's right, because
they bought into permission to operate by a 501c3 corporation.
And by the way, in the socialist state, in the old Soviet Union, it was illegal for churches to give any relief to people because that was the job of the state. Loyalty to the state is primary. So anyway, he came back and Bunce put on a big thing with thousands of people there, and he realized this guy was really someone prominent. And he apologized, and he said, I don't deserve your vote. He said, but I learned a great lesson. He got reelected, went back to Congress. The bill came up to provide funds for a Revolutionary War widow. And he said, this is unconstitutional, Crockett. And he said, I will give 1 month of my pay, and if everyone did that, it would want to compensate for this bill. And, of course, the bill wasn't passed. But no one pointed up any money, though, except for Crockett. And this wonderful essay is called Not Yours to Give. But if it's not yours to give, it's also not yours to take. And I'll give you an example. Right. I was visiting a guy had a bunch of solar panels on his in his property, on the side of his barn. And he said, yeah, they're great. He said, I couldn't afford them. He said, but I got I think $8,000 subsidized. So here's the $30,000 or $40,000, but he said $8,000 to get the things put up was subsidized, and then I get tax deferments. So he's basically paid next to nothing. And he said, if I didn't take it, somebody else would have. Well, so that means that every single citizen in the whole country should have solar panels. If this guy can have solar panels, so that's and this guy was a moderately conservative guy, but he was.
But that's
allowed,
the argument. That's the age-old
yeah.
argument. I might as well get mine, so
because,
everybody else is going to get it. I might as well get mine.
Well, if I'm walking in downtown Presque Isle, or it may be behind the store, and someone come up to me with a flat screen TV out of breath and said, "Hey, $10, you get this thing that's worth $1,000." Well, I know it's stolen, but heck, if I didn't buy it, somebody else would have bought it.
That's right. The next guy is going to buy it, so you ought to have it. Ought to receive stolen goods.
So that's still that to me is not a very good moral argument. It's still wrong if you receive it, and if more Americans said, you know what, I'm not going to take it. I don't care. A number of years ago, when I got back from the Army, I had an apartment, and I would come by take care of my parents' house, keep the house up, and I noticed some stolen windows that on a couple of the windows were new replacement windows. And usually, if something like that was going on, I would be the one involved in either doing it, or be the catalyst to make it happen. I said, "What's with the windows?" "Oh, the city of Boston. They came in, and I said, "Yeah, well, what do you mean?" My mother, she said, "Well, we're entitled because elderly." And I called the mayor's office, and I said, "Stop corrupting my parents through your cheap, crappy windows." I said to my dear mother, who was, a conservative lady, I said, "You're not entitled." I said, this is wrong. I said, "Let's pay for the windows. We don't need the city of Boston giving windows to elderly people, and taxpayers. Someone has to pay for those windows. It's not right."
That whole entitlement mentality is just pervasive in our society. Because everybody feels an entitlement to something.
And it's not just in urban; it's in rural. I mean,
it's everywhere.
You have, and
it's whether you're in the land trust where you get paid not to grow crops, or
right.
you get a tax deferment because you have more than 50 trees on your property. Wait a minute. If you want that property, you like it, I agree with you. It's yours. Do what you please. But you don't get a benefit from the people. You don't get to have a special exemption because of it.
When these local governments, when they want to attract business, they'll offer these. The bottom line is that why don't you put a level playing field? Let's not. Well, we want to attract Prudential Insurance, so we'll say you can build, and we won't tax you for 10 or 20 years. That's what they did here in Boston.
Oh, yeah.
But what about the other insurance companies that aren't, because you didn't give them special preferences? What about a level playing field? The left is always talking about fairness. Tell you what, we will have the same condition for everybody. We won't tax anybody for any property taxes. If you want to come in here and instead of here's an old house, a building, we would like to see it reused. So you take it over, and so incentives for all, not just for specially handpicked, not for this farmer over here. And when the state subsidized farmer A, farmer B is not subsidized, so he's going to go out of business. And not only that, but farmer A now is totally dependent upon that government official. So who do you think they're going to support in any election? So they're buying your vote.
That's right. It works
money.
Like that in everything. When you go back to your solar panel example, back what is it? What's the name of that company that went belly up after getting the big bailout?
California. Yeah.
Anyway, they guaranteed a loan. Why didn't the government simply put a bid out if it actually wants to support solar energy?
Cilantro.
Why didn't the government? Yeah, cilantro. That's right. That sounds like it sounds like an herb. Cilantro. Why didn't they just put a bid out that the government is going to purchase all all federal government buildings are going to be fitted with some solar facilities. So if they really wanted to do that, and then they put it out on bid, that would have given the entire solar industry a shot in the arm, because the government's going to pay for it, because the government's going to put it to use. It's a tool. It's not just a subsidy.
Right.
That would have brought the price of solar panels down. It would have increased the technology and the research, because the businesses that were actually viable would have jumped on that.
That's right.
Instead, you and I lost millions and millions of dollars because they were trying to pick winners and losers. And the government never picks winners. The government always picks losers.
Again, that's the typical. Of course, the whole notion of solar panels. We're trying to save the planet from the horrible, evil effects of global warming or climate change. Now they use that term to cover all things. And it was the New American had a little article about a liberal scientist who's sort of seen the light, and he's realizing. He said the solar panels. He said the process to make the solar panels. He said that they release into the atmosphere 23,000 times the amount of carbons, and other harmful things in the environment. So he said it sort of neutralizes itself. So there's no net gain, And I think he still believes it's global warming, but he really, he still buys into that. But he said, I'm not, and he said, my Prius, he said, isn't always cracked up to be either. And he's realizing that. And he's realizing that when you take your little bags down to recycle, get onto the supermarket with your little, recycled bags, one volcano eruption, there was somewhere in the world there was an eruption. He said that neutralized all the stuff we've done over the last 50 years to save the planet. Yeah. So better.
I'm a huge proponent of solar energy. Great. It's not because I think I'm going to save the planet from the evil carbon distributors.
Yeah.
It's because it's a good idea. It works well.
It's a good idea.
And it takes some of the control away from the fossil fuel industry.
That's right.
So
and the idea is to get off. If you can get off the grid, you can be independent, but don't expect me to pay for it. That's the bottom line.
That's right. I didn't get anybody to pay for it. As a matter of fact, I'm just finding out that some friends of mine are just purchasing some panels. So they were doing some research into prices and comparisons. And right now, the cost per watt is down to right about $1 a watt, which is amazing that it's gotten that low. When I bought my panels, it was running between $4 and $5 a watt.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And so it's really made huge, huge improvements. Not because we guaranteed Solandra that went out of business, but because people are buying the things and the companies are making better and better products.
Better products because of.
And there's actually the one good thing that's come out of the hybrid, these idiots that buy hybrids because they're going to save the planet. Thanks, folks. I appreciate you doing that, even though most of you did it because it gets you a $3,000 rebate or some dumb thing.
Right.
But I really appreciate you guys doing that, because the battery technology is finally starting to improve.
Yeah, right. And that's when a company makes profits, they can put more into research and development and all that good stuff that goes along with it, I guess. Yeah.
Well, they kind of got caught by their own lies. They would never have developed the battery technology if they hadn't been kind of forced into it with this whole mandatory hybrid concept that the federal government mandated that car manufacturers had to have such a gas consumption rate that they started working on the hybrids. Well, again, that was wrong to do. They should have done it because it was profitable or not profitable. They should have left it alone. But, I mean, I've been watching battery technology for the last 45 years. I'm an old submariner, and submarines ran on batteries.
Batteries, that's right, yeah.
Everything I've done in all of my work career has been around battery-powered stuff. I was on the Alvin submarine, and that was battery powered. And the old Trieste, the one that made the dive to the deepest part of the Marianas Trench, that was batteries. And old diesel submarines ran on batteries. And so battery technology basically hasn't changed from the 1920s up until about 2 years ago. It's finally starting to change. But they would not allow the battery technology to change.
Interesting.
That stayed static all that time. And all those years we kept hearing, oh, we're right around the corner from developing and really, really significantly improving battery technology. And you know what? The next year followed, and the next year followed, and the next year followed. It never happened.
Yeah.
But the lunatics that got the government to subsidize the green earth, save the earth morons have actually helped us by getting some battery technology going. So I appreciate that. Just was the wrong way to do it.
Hey, let me mention a few things here. If anyone's interested in learning more about the John Birch Society, we have a 800 number and also a website that they can go to, and they can request information. They could order material if they like some material, books, pamphlets, or what, DVDs. jbs.org. And if we have a lot of great information on this CONCON, on Agenda 21, on the UN, on the gun issues, on practically any issue that's important to you. We also have something called the Freedom Index, so you can actually see how your member of Congress votes on issues. Unfortunately, your congressional delegation does not have a passing grade, and I don't think you've had one for many, many years. It's something the New American, our publication, our magazine, publishes every 6 months. So you can download that for free on the scorecard or the Freedom Index. Also, 1-800-JBS-USA1. If you like to call that number, you can request the information packet. And again, I'm going to be up at the Governor's Restaurant this coming Saturday at 9 a.m. In the meeting room in the back there, I'll be giving a presentation on the United Nations and global gun control. And I'll have plenty of material with me, some of the material that you might see on the Shop JBS. I'll have it with me as well. And tomorrow night, for those of you might be listening in Bangor or other parts of the state, I'll be at 33 Booker Street, which is in Thomaston. And Booker Street's just south of the little village, little side street. It's the office of Dr. Edward Harshman. He has a very nice size meeting room that holds about 40 or 50 people. And I'll be reviewing the JBS's, John Birch Society's new 7-part series on the Constitution. We'll be doing I'll show a few of the videos or the DVDs and discussing some of the parts of it. So, it would be a nice meeting, get to know some folks in the area. And if anyone's interested in calling me directly, my number is 857-498-1309. And if you can't make it Saturday but would like to meet with me, I'll be heading up there Thursday up in the Aroostook County area, and be happy to meet with you. I'll be staying at a cabin there in Monticello, and I'll be happy to meet with some folks during the day. If that Thursday and Friday, I think the balloon festivals is. I'll be heading
on
up there.
Saturday.
I'll have my children with me, so we'd like to do that balloon glow. I think it's Friday night. That should be kind of fun. So my daughter will be there as one of the reigning town queens. Oh, no kidding.
Oh yeah, she'll be there with whatever they do, the cutting or the release of the balloon or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Would that be Friday night or Saturday?
I think it's Saturday morning.
Oh, really? Oh, that's pretty neat. Okay. So again, my number is 857-498-1309. And if you're on Facebook, we have a Facebook page. It would be Maine Friends of the John Birch Society, and you can go to that site and get some. I think you're on that site, I believe, Jack.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I read your posts and what's going on there. There's all kinds of good stuff. Again, that's Facebook thing. It's another one of these crazy technologies. It's one of those love-hate relationships. I hate Facebook. Man, I hate Facebook. But it is an amazing tool. You and I and patriots all over this country can get the word out to each other in a flash.
Well, let me give you an example. Now, I understand the problems with Facebook, but that's problems with anything. I mean, we could be wiretapped. Your phone is tapped. You might mail things, and your mail's being looked through. So everything has positive and negatives. If you use it, and I don't put on I put my phone number on there because I'm full time. This is what I do full time. I can understand, but I don't put. There's a lot of stuff you shouldn't be putting on there. But anyway,
I put my birthday on there so I get at least 2 or 3 cakes a year.
Yeah, but there could be something inside those cakes, so you got to be careful.
Yeah, there.
Anyway,
X-Lax.
Ringe, New Hampshire, little town in the southwest part of the state of New Hampshire. Beautiful. We have our Camp Constitution. That's where we hold that. So it has a special meaning to me, the town. Anyway, the town has a Facebook page, and they've got some progressives, like a lot of the towns, the people from Massachusetts came in and sort of took it over. The so-called progressives, nothing progressive about what they advocating a feudal system, which was something that we rejected hundreds of years ago. But anyway, they're in the beginnings of pushing Agenda 21, and I had made some postings about Granite State Future and Plan New Hampshire and all these other Agenda 21 deceptions. So, and caught a lot of flack from the so-called progressives. And of course, when you challenge them, when you say, hey, I'll meet with you, or here, having a present, they don't usually show up. But a gentleman from West Ringe, whose family's been to Ringe for a couple of, 150 years, he makes a posting, and he said, what happened to the postings about this Agenda 21 stuff? I'm starting to learn about it. So that opened the door for me to get back on there and put some information up. And as a result of that, he's hosting a presentation, and we've got a lot of people interested in early October. That's something like that would not have normally happened without that Facebook thing. So it can be done for good and for bad. But if patriots use it to advance the mission, I mean, almost not every town, but many towns have Facebook pages. Daily newspapers, weekly newspapers have Facebook pages. They may not run your letter, in the newspaper. Post it on the Facebook page. It might be up there for 2 days or a week, or indefinitely. Politicians have Facebook pages. And most newspapers also have their online versions. You can make comments, and when you make a comment, I always say, when you go fishing, put a worm on the hook. Make a comment. Put a link of where, hey, I'm a fellow patriot. Where do I go to get more information? What can I do about it? Don't just a lot of people like to make comments and think that's the end all. No, the purpose of that is to find other like-minded people and then organize and activate. So just making a posting is all well and good, but you gotta that goal is to reach out and find more people and to get involved.
Yeah, you don't throw bait in the water without a line attached to it. That's right. I mean, you promote your radio show. You don't just say, hey, I got a radio show. It's in the morning. Great. No, give me the time it's on. Give me where I can find it on the dial. Give me a website. Give me where it can be archived. And then I'm going to take that would be Aroostook.Watchman.me.
That's right. And I do post your show every so often. I'll post some of your shows or some of the talk show archives, all of the things. In fact, all of the listeners here could put your show really on it would compete with Howie Carr if enough of us really, hey, let's just once a week, let's just copy and paste this link, and there'd be more advertisers. There'd be a lot more because there aren't a whole lot of freedom advocating talk show hosts. There's some neocons, and because of the independence you have. By the way, the John Birch Society started a weekly talk show on a Utah station. It's called the New American Review, and I'll make some postings on them. I think I might have put it in the shows are then put on YouTube. I think actually they're videotaped live in studio, so you see the talk show host, not just a picture of somebody. So I forget what day they do it, but then once a week, it's 1 hour in the morning. And then, of course, they're rebroadcast. And some of the writers on New American, of course, are outstanding. I should say all of them are. And that's the folks they interview, the writers on different articles. So we had a great article.
Make sure you send me a link to that, Hal.
I certainly will. Yes, I was thinking Tuesdays, about maybe getting that show put on Allen's station here. That might be something to look into. when I'm up there.
We might be able to put it on Tuesdays. Our friend Jeremy Hiltz, who has the show coming up right after ours on the Constitutional Radio Network, The Conscience of Maine. Jeremy Hiltz is going to be leaving us, and he's been with us for a while, and he's done an excellent job. But he just finds that his church is requiring more of his time, and that's his first priority, and he has to take care of his flock. So he's going to only be with us for a couple of weeks, and maybe for the next few weeks after that, we'll run that show that for the JBS. That would be great, the New American.
Okay.
So send me a link to that, and we'll.
I certainly will. Yeah.
Sure, we can play that. That'd be great.
Where's Jeremy? Where's he based, Jeremy?
Belfast, I think.
Belfast. Oh, really?
Yeah, Jeremy Hill's a great young pastor. Just lays it right on the line. He's doing a great job, but his church is higher priority, so he's going to have to go deal with that.
Yeah, I'll be heading through Belfast on my way up there, though, to your area, so maybe I can introduce myself to him.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll have to get you in touch. Jim and Tricia White can send you his information, and his show is following ours. It's right on TalkShoe. It's the Refiner's Hour, and he'll be on this morning live in about 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, let me just recap. Just tomorrow night, I'll be in Thomaston, Maine, 33 Booker Street, which is a side street right off of Route 1, just a stone's throw from the village of Thomaston, 7 p.m. in the office of Dr. Ed Harshman. There's actually a sign that says Harshman's off, Dr. Harshman. And then Saturday, I'll be at the Governor's Restaurant in Presque Isle I'll give a PowerPoint presentation on the subject of the United Nations and its gun control. It aims to have gun control, civilian disarmament. And that will be at 9 o'clock, and it's free admission, and all you need to do is show up. You can order off the menu. You don't have to, put any money down for a meal if you don't want to. And I'll be up there from Thursday.
5 shots in the red.
Yeah, that's right. A steady hand. So, and if people would like to learn more about the society, jbs.org or 1-800-JBS-USA1, they can call it, or just go right to the Facebook page, Maine Friends of the John Birch Society, and you can find a lot of information out there as well.
Well, great, Hal. I appreciate you being with me this morning.
Well, thanks for having me.
I appreciate the work you do. I follow what you're doing as close as I can. There's just not enough hours in the day to do it all.
Oh, I know it. That's true.
But,
yeah.
Thank the Lord. There are some people like you out there that are actually doing it on a daily basis. We would not be able to survive without it.
Well, thank you so much.
So, thanks, folks. Appreciate you being with us. This is the Aroostook Watchman Radio Show. My guest host today has been Hal Shurtleff from the JBS. I'm Jack McCarthy, your host. And we want to thank you folks that support us, that pay the electric bill at the station. Alan and the folks at the station appreciate it very much. And so keep sending in your pledges. It only takes a couple bucks, $5-10 a month, helps pay that electric bill. We've got to keep that transmitter on the air. And the folks that actually support the show, we appreciate you supporting them. Stop and have lunch up at Misty Meadows Organic Farms in the St. John Valley right there in Madawaska. Beautiful spot. Stop into the Natural Living Center in Bangor at the cafe, and coffee and donuts in the morning, and great natural foods all throughout the store, 10,000 square feet. And in Caribou, John Taven, Countywide Vacuum. John sells the perfect vacuum cleaner and services the rest. He's also got a wall of bags, and he'll send vacuum cleaner bags anywhere in the country. Support him. Call him. Order bags from John Taven, Countywide Vacuum, 207-492-1492. Thanks for being with us, folks. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the radio.
WXME-AM 780, Monticello, Holton, Presque Isle. Jesus.